Hello, everyone. So today is Sunday, March the 6th, and I've decided to do one more video recording for Excel. Um, I did the Chapter 5 partial project demonstration yesterday, and that will be shown in class on this coming Wednesday, which would be about March the 9th. And I'm going to also play this one on the same day, Wednesday, March the 9th. I'm going to again do the same number of steps, but for this one, I'm going to do the Chapter 7 project. All right, so just for this one module, because Excel is very challenging. So I'm going to go ahead and do one more project demonstration. And this time I'm not going to, I yap and I yap and I yap when I'm doing these recordings, and I demonstrate more than one thing, and I'm always talking about, so you do this, and I'm pretty sure that in the Chapter 5 recording, I know everything I did was exactly right, but I think the score was a little bit lower. It was still about 83, 84% based on the number of things I did. It was 34.7%, I think, out of 40. 34.7 points out of 40, which had turned to about 83 or 84. But the only reason it wasn't a 40 out of 40 is because when I was demonstrating and showing you a couple things on the last parts of it, it messed up the row so that there were blank rows where there should not have been. But anyway, that's perfectly fine. All right. But so here I'm just gonna like motor through Chapter 7. All righty. So let me what am I doing? Let me not show me. Let's go ahead and, well, first let's make sure that I am recording. So here I am recording, and I'm about to share my screen now. So share. So now I'm sharing my screen over here, and I'm going to go to the start here. Okay, and go in here and download the Chapter 7 and just kind of do it and do it quickly. All right, so course materials. All right, I hope you hear me. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're working hard. Remember, the exam for Excel is on the 16th, so Wednesday the 16th. So you have to be working very hard. All right, so Excel, and let me make sure I'm in the student view. Return to instructor, so I'm where I want to be, I think. Okay, so Chapter 7. All right. Mid-level project. So this one right here, okay? Click here. And this one, I hope to literally only be 40 minutes, but I won't repeat myself as much, so it may be more difficult for some of you. Hit for grading, download materials. All right, so there's the instructions document, which is the same as what I demonstrated for Word and also what I demonstrated for the first Excel project. Then there's the Excel file, what I call the start file, and then what they're showing as a final result. So download all files. Okay. And once that's downloaded, I'm going to close that thing. Whoops, not that thing. So I'm going to open, come in here to downloads. Okay, so right here, I'm going to extract all. This is a zip file. So when you download your materials, if you do the download all materials, it's like 3 or more files, so it downloads as a zip file. So then what you just do is right click on it and extract all. As long as you know where it went, in my case it's the download, so I'm going to let it go right there and extract. So now, let me shut that for a second just to show you. So here is the zip file, okay? And then when I extracted it, it has the very same name, but it's now a folder that you can get into. If you go into a zip file, you can't do anything with it. So you need to always extract it, because when you download a zip file, you're really downloading a percentage of the file. And when you extract it, it blows it back up to a normal file. Okay, so let's first look at the JPEG. But again, I'm not going to talk much about it this time. I'm just going to do it. All right, so based on what I saw in the Chapter 5, it's not going to, they may not show everything, meaning like if there's 2 or 3 worksheets and I can't actually even see, let's see if this scrolls down, that's a picture file, so no. So it's not even showing everything on it unless if I blow it up. Anyway, Anyway, but that's that file. Okay, so I just hit my escape to get out of that one. Okay, I want the instructions and then I want the Excel file. So here's my instructions. And I'm going to do what I did on chapter 5 and also what I did in chapter 5 in Word, meaning about 7 or 8 steps. Okay, so I want to get in the neighborhood of 40% or so of the work that I do. All right, so let's see. So step 1, remember, you don't get credit for, so I don't count that as a step. So let's see how many steps there are. 23, well, 23 is 0 also. It's just saving and closing the file. So there's 23 minus 2, 21 steps. So I'll do probably 8 of them, maybe 7 of them. Whatever, when I count, it looks like it's about 40 points. Okay, so I'll minimize that for now. And then let me see all these things I can close down. This one here is just notes on when I'm uploading videos. That is this file I just opened. All right, so now I'm going to open the Excel file. Remember, yours is going to have your your last name, sorry, and then preceded by the file name. So in my case, it's going to say underscore student. Yours will say underscore and your last name. And if you're one of many with the same last name in the class, that doesn't mean it's okay to share a file. I promise you, you'd get a 0 on it if you do. Okay, so you will have well, you won't have, but the program at Pearson MyLab IT will get an embedded, will put in an embedded encrypted key that ties in with your student ID from you, from having registered at the MyLab IT site, sorry. Okay, anyway, so this is the Excel file, the start file. Okay, so now I'm going to just pull up that document and see what I can do with it. And this time, like I said, I'm going to do it fast. Well, as fast as I can. Hopefully it won't be too hard. Chapter 7, really, I said chapter 5 was easy, chapter 6 was easy, chapter 7 was easy too. But if you remember when I did the demonstration on training, you know, again, I've told you guys I do have diabetes, and sometimes when I get lost, it's because I'm like a little bit weak, sometimes a lot weak. So I just ate, I am good. All right, so anyway, Excel chapter 7, admissions. You work in the admissions office, or let me make this bigger, sorry. Make it, well, that's too big. Oops, no. I'll just leave it big. Okay, so you work in the admissions office for a small regional university in Massachusetts. Your assistant entered a list of college applicants for the fall 2021 semester. You determine if a student qualifies for early admission or early rejection based on SAT and GPA. After determining the immediate admissions and rejections, you calculate a total score based on SAT and GPA to determine regular admissions and rejections. So it's just basically doing some Excel calculations and using logic statements for sure. So it won't be too bad. All right. So start Excel, download it, and open the file. So the file is right here. Remember, once you download it, you need to enable. I've already enabled the content, but with Excel, well, with anything in Microsoft Office, when you open a file, you have to enable the content. Okay. If you, like in the case of the Word document, which is the instructions, you don't really need to enable content if you don't want to. But I like to, after I do a particular step, I like to put it in red. Tells me that I've done it. All right, so it doesn't really matter. But anyway, all right, so start Excel, I've done it. I've got the file, it's right behind this one, that's fine. And again, the graders automatically added your last name to the beginning of the file name, so don't worry about that, but you will have something there to indicate your name. All right, so first, you want to calculate the number of days between the initial deadline and the date received. So they're telling us to go to cell D11, okay, and where am I? In cell D11, insert the days function. So that's a nice, easy function in Excel. I think I demonstrated that in class as well. The today function anyway. There's a lot of different functions. There's a weekday function. There's fractions for functions for days, frac days. But anyway, this one, they just want to insert the days function using the initial deadline that is stored in cell B8. So they're telling us where it is, and the date received that is stored in cell C11. Use mixed and relative references correctly. All All right, so that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to pull this thing down. Let's see, about there, and then pull it down lower, about there. Now I have my Excel file, and make this thing smaller and make it, doing it this way instead of the other. I think it said somewhere 11. Let's see. It said in D11. All right, so here's D and here is 11. So that's the cell I have to be in. So the name box shows D11. I'm in column D. I'm in row 11. So I'm right here. And it says days before deadline. So what they mean is the number of days that you or this particular person applied for the school, applied to get into the school. And up here they have some initial deadline. So the deadline is March 1, 2021. So these people applied on November, well, this one is November 15 anyway, 2020. So obviously he or she applied well in advance of the deadline, so that's fine. So here we're going to do the function. So I'm going to just type in here the days function. So if you go into your formulas and you go to date and time, okay, you'll see days, not day, but days. So if you click on days, then you pull it down, it says there's an end date and a start date. So look what they tell us here. So in cell D11, insert the days function. That's the days function. Using the initial deadline that is stored in cell B8 and the date received. Okay, so the initial deadline here is in B8, and the students, you know, when the application was C11. Now, because we're going to be doing all these in in D11, and it's using C11, those are called relative formulas. So, and then when we take the fill handle to copy it down, it would then be D12 and C12, D13, C13. So these are relative, okay? Now, if you notice here, it says you use mixed and relative. So the ones that are on the same row are going to be the relative. That means we don't need to put the $ on those, okay? The ones that are higher, then we have to use the mixed reference to put a $ before the row so that this is always row 8, all righty? So all we have to do is type in here, we want B8 as the deadline, that's the end date. So B8, okay? And now it says B8 over here in my function arguments, but this is the one that's not on the same row. So this is the one where I want to say $8, okay? So that says $8, all right? And up here in the formula bar, you can see it more clearly. It says equal days, open, $8. So that is the end date. Now the start date is going to be based on the date down here that the person applied on. So I'm going to click C11, okay? So now if you look in the formula bar, it's equal days, open parentheses, $8. That means to always use the 8th row, okay? The 8th row means always use 312021 because we're going up and down. So it's automatically going to stay in B. So we didn't need a $B, okay? All right, so $8. And the C11, again, it's not, we don't want it to stay mixed because it's going to be the same date for row 11, C and D, it's the same cells, meaning the same row, okay? And then the next one, when it goes down, it's going to be 12 on the date received, and days before deadline's also on the 12th row. So that's why I said you don't need the other. So that really should be it. And it tells us the result's going to be 106. So I'm just going to say okay, all right? So if you want to calculate the number of the days, so that's the answer right there, all right? Now I'm going to look to see if that JPEG picture, I think I shut it back down. So let's see if I still have that. That's in here. So I want the JPEG file just to see if it shows 106. We're on number 11. Yeah, see, 106 is the days before deadline. So this one's telling us everything we want. I'm just going to minimize this. So that is A-OK. All right. So that should be the answer. Now, I inserted the days function. I used mixed and relative references correctly. And then in the next one, step 3, it says copy the days function from cell D11 to the range D12 to D67. And it says a negative value indicates the application was received after the deadline. So if it came in after 312021, then it's going to be a negative number because it's late. All right. So that means all I got to do is basically double click. So for number 3 here, I just double click on the fill handle or single click and drag down. I'm going to make this a little bit lower again so you can kind of see more. And watch, when I double click on this right there, when it's a thin black plus sign, boom, boom, it's now putting the days before the deadline. So I can scroll down and every one will have a day. And it's saying, so the ones with a minus applied late. See, here's 3-2. The deadline was 3-1, so that's -1. And then 3-14 and 3-31. So that is good, okay? And if you say, what about the mixed reference? Well, let me just pick one of these. I'll just click this one here where it's 15. Look at the cell, the formula bar. It says equal days, $8. Remember I said it'll always stay at $8. That means the 8th row. So it's still using 3-1 of 2021, but here we're using C54, okay? And that's where it should be because that's row 54. That's the relative part of the formula. So that is done, okay? So hit my save, go back here. So I've done number 2 and I've done number 3. So I'm just going to click those both, and maybe to get the points too to make it easier. I just could have, anyway. So hit my home up here. Oh, hit home here, sorry. There we go. All right, so that's red. Okay, now, next you want to determine if a student should be admitted early. So this is step 4, okay? And so they're saying G11. So let's pull this down again. So here was D11, okay? And then you see E11 and F11 have things in it. So G11, H11, I11, and J11 are probably cells we're going to be doing something with. And then you can see these things up here. Probably we'll be having some calculations, and maybe these here calculations. But remember, I'll only do the first 7 or 8 steps till I think I get about 40 points. All right. Okay. So number 4 again. So in cell G11, so here's G, and there's, let me pull it down so it's below now my spreadsheet again. All right. So I'm going to just show 2 rows, 11 and 12. I mean, so that I can have a bit more room here. All right, and then pull this up to there. So I'm going to click in G11. Okay, so that's where I want to do this next formula. And what do I want? So they want you to determine if a student should be admitted early. Okay, then it says in cell G11, insert the if function with a nested and function. Okay, so that is going to be where we're having an if and an and together. All right. It'll basically be equal if, and then an open, and then an and then after the and, another open, and then whatever the logical tests are. But I'll show you as we go along. All right. So insert the if function with a nested and to display either yes or no in the admit early column. So the admit early column, that makes, you know, we're going to need that. So admit early, okay, so early admit. So here we're going to be probably comparing this SAT score here. It has to be at least 1,400 to get early admittance. So this person with 1,525 for sure would get early admittance if they want to. Okay, so that would be that part. But it will with an and clause. So then there's also probably going to be this 3.8 for the early admittance on a GPA, and this, well, this is a 4. So again, that person would qualify for both, probably. Okay, so in the admit early, which is G11. That's, we're going to compare this 1,525 to 1,400 with a mixed reference. The 1,525 will just have the cell address, meaning E11. But up here on 1,400, it'll be B$3. Okay. And then the GPA here, it'll be F11, because here's column F, row 11. So F11. But up here on the target GPA, it has to be 3.80. So that'll be B$4, so it's always B4, just like this one's always B3. Okay, and then here we're going to put either yes or no. All right, let's see. So the student's SAT score must be 1,400 or higher. Okay, so it's not greater, but yeah, that or higher, obviously. And the GPA must be 3.8 or higher. All right, so basically, I'm going to say equal if, okay. And then I want to put in an and as well. You don't need to type an and in caps, but if you want to do it in caps, just double click it, okay, that way. So you see now it's got a logical and then more logicals. So with an equal if and then an open, and then the word and another open means that whatever is after this opening, the second opening parenthesis, there has to be at least one, but it could be 2, 3, or even 4 or 5 arguments, okay? And after all the arguments, because they all have to be done, and means, you know, they all have to be true. So if it's 1 or 2, here it's 2. They have to have a good enough GPA, and they have to have a good enough SAT based on these values to be early admittance. And if so, we're going to put yes or no. All right. So use relative and mixed references to the cells in the admission criteria range. So up here, again, we're going to use the mixed reference. And here, it'll be the relative reference on these cells down here. All right. So equal if, open the parentheses, and now I just got to figure out what we're going to say. So E11 is this one, SAT. So here is the first logical test. So E11, and what is it? We're saying greater or equal, right? Greater or equal to this 1400. On the E11, remember, it's relative. That means we're going to leave it as E11. But on B3, because it's not on the same row, we have to put a $sign before the 3. So $3, okay? So B3, that's test 1. So E11 greater than or equal B3, B$3. And it is, so it's going to be true, but we don't put that. Excel will put that. Now we put a comma because we have another required part of the clause. And that one is, let's see. So now it's the GPA. So GPA is this 3.8, and his or her GPA is this one. Because I got that stuff there, it's hard to see, but you know it's F right here, and it's 11. Okay, so now I'll say F11 greater equal, the same thing, but instead of B3, it'll be B4. Okay, and again, on the B, the part that's not on the same row, we put a $sign before, before the 4, between the B and the 4, in other words. So $. Okay, so now we have that. Okay. And we're not going to have another one because we just did it. So we did the if function. We are using an and function because both have to be true. And then we're going to display yes or no. So after that, okay, I then put, let's see. Oh, I don't want that. So I want to close that one maybe. Let's see. Yeah. So I close that one. See, I base what I'm doing on what they're telling me here. So I need to know the value if true. So if I now put a comma, now it's got value if true. Well, if it's true, they said a yes. So anytime you put a string, you have to put a double quote and then the yes, and do the yes the way they say in the instructions, not the color, but I mean capital Y and then ES, okay? So that's value if true. Then we do a comma, and now what? Well, this means value if false. So then double quote, capital N, little o, double quote, okay? So we got the yes, and we've got the no, and then we have one more closing parenthesis. So let's verify. So equal if, now let's look up here, it's a little bit bigger, sorry. Equal if, open parenthesis, okay? And open parenthesis. So now there's 2 open parentheses. The first argument, this is the logical test, E11 greater than or equal, and I normally put a space really here. You don't technically have to, but I like it because it separates it so you can see it better. Okay, so then let me separate all these, make sure that I've done what I want. Equal, and then that's okay. All right, so after the equal on this one, also put a space. All right, okay. So now, if I enter that, what it's saying is equal if, again, open and then open. So is basically the question, is E11 greater than or equal to B3? So here is E11. E, you can't see it right now, but the value that was in there, okay, I think it was 1500 or something, or 1525, whatever, but that's greater than 1400. So we know it's true if we look at it that way. And then another required logical test, because I put a comma, is F11 greater than or equal to B4. So F11, their GPA was, I think, 4. Okay, and that's greater than 3.8, so that's true as well. So they're both true. Then you close it. You got to close the arguments after those 2 inner. Okay, so now only one apostrophe is still open, and here is after that comma, it tells us the next thing, value if true. Well, if it's true, the value is yes. Okay. But if it's not, after that next comma, it'll say value if false, and that's no. So I'm going to enter that. Okay. And you see it pops up as yes. Now you can see the values again. So 4.0 is definitely greater than 3.8, and 1525 is definitely greater than 14. The question is making sure that I got the greater equal, because 1400 is fine, 3.80 is fine. It doesn't technically have to be greater, but it has to be greater or equal. Okay, so that looks good. So I'm going to enter that, and it's done. All right, now let's see if they want me to then, of course, carry that down, right? So insert the if function with a nested and function to display either yes or no in the admit early column. That's admit early. The university admits a student early if that student meets both the early admission criteria for the SAT, which is B3, must be 3.8 or higher, and the GPA in B4, okay, B4, and that must be 3.8 or higher. Use relative and mixed references, I did. Based on the requirements, the first student will be admitted. Okay, so this I like because they're actually telling us something for a change. So here they're saying, based on that, so this student here, 2020005, is yes, and it did come up to yes. Okay, now the next one is probably going to tell us to of course, do it for everyone else. Now that you determine which students are admitted early, you want to. All right, so see, in my mind, it should do what this one's saying. Copy the days function from this. See, here's where I get messed up when it. I mean, I can do it for sure. I know that it has to be there. So I'm going to click on this admit early. Oops, this one. And again, double click on this. You know what? No, I'm not, because every time I do, something weird happens. I'm just going to wait. I assume, and so this may not be one that I do. Okay, but you guys at some point, if it doesn't tell you to do it, definitely come in here, hover over this fill handle, right, like that, and either double click or single click and drag down. Okay, all right, but for now I'm going to go to number 5. So I got to put this one as red. So for sure, in my mind anyway, that one is done correctly, and that's 8 points. All right, all right. Okay, so that was number 4. Move this up here. All right, number 5. Now that you determine which students, see, but I've only determined one student. That's this one. They did not tell me to, carry it down like they told me to carry down this days before deadline. So why the heck they didn't tell me here, I don't know. But anyway, I'm just going to go to the next. Oh, shoot. Go to the next one and then deal with it. All right. All right. So now H11. So now that you determine which students are admitted early, you want to determine if a student should be rejected early. Okay. So in cell H11, enter the if function, but here, so it's the same thing in nested, but this time or instead of and. Okay. So to display either yes or no, same thing in the reject early column, reject early. So this is exactly the same thing, but instead of an and clause where they both have to be true to admit early, if either or is a no, meaning their score is less than, like, okay, they got early reject here, yeah, 800 points or 1.80 GPA, they would both qualify as early rejects. You know what I'm going to do is go back here. Show you how you sometimes do things. I'm going to copy that. So right click and control copy that. Okay, control copy. And then I'm going to escape so I don't ruin it. And then come over here and control V it back in and enter. Now, don't think this means anything because this is the same formula, okay? But I have to now fix the formula, all right? So what are we going to do? So now I'm in step 5, right? So I'm in H11, reject early, and they want an if or. So up here where it says and, I'm going to change that to or. So I'll just type or and delete the and one space at a time. So now equal if, open parentheses, or. That's for sure how you would do it, okay? All right, let's see. So the university rejects a student early if that student has either an SAT less than 800. So here's the less than 800, okay? And here is their SAT, right? So it's the same A, B, C, D, E. E. Actually, it's the same formulas here. Yeah, so E11, but here instead of greater than, it's going to now be less than. Now let me see if it's less than, equal, or just less than. Below 1.8 and less than 800. So we don't do the equal. This time just E11. Okay, so E is here and this is 11. Is E11 less than? But now it's not B3, it's the reject, so it's C3. So change that C, a B, to a C and delete. Okay. Okay, so then just make sure E11 is this one, 1525. So the logical test is saying, is 1525 less than, and then this is C, and this is 3. Is it less than 800? Of course not. It's not. Okay, so that's, it's good so far. All right, and then the next one is F11. F11 is GPA, so that's going to be C4 for the GPA, because the next column, column C, is the bad numbers, meaning early rejects. The positive numbers are B3, B4. So now we go to C3 and C4. So I did C3. So this B4, I'm just going to change the B to a C. Okay. And then yes, no. So enter. Oops. Okay. Obviously, I did something wrong here. Let's see. Equal, if, or. All right. So that's all good. E11. Where am I? E11 less than C3 for sure. And with the $3, that's exactly what we want. And then F11 is, oh, I didn't make this less than. See, I still have it greater than. So less than C4, then yes and no. Click over here and enter. And now it's a no. So if you admit them early, obviously you're not rejecting them early, but just make sure the calculation. Equal, if, open, or open. E11. E11 is, now you can see it nicely. So this is the same SAT score that we clicked in when we were doing the admit early. Okay. We still are looking at this student, and he or she got a 1525. The reject early is if you get less than an 800. So obviously they're almost double that. So they're very, very good. Then the next part of it is F11, and F11 is the GPA. Again, their GPA is basically perfect, 4.0, and that's they're saying if they're going to be rejected early, they have to be less than 1.80. Well, they're sure not less, right? And I fixed it to be less. So that's done. So let's see now if they tell us to do what we want. Or am I going to go to I11? Okay, so in cell H11, enter the if function with a nested or. Let's click on it again so I can see it. So it's definitely equal, if, and an or. That's what I did. To display either yes or no. I got the yes and I got the no. Remember, always put double quotes around both. Okay, and see, you put that comma. See, this is the value of true before the comma. Watch when I click after the comma. Now it's value if false. So everything in Excel, just like here, this is going to be called logical 1. Logical test 1 is what that means. But then when I click here, it's logical test 2. Why? Because I put a comma. Everything is separated by a comma in logical expressions. Okay, so that's all good. All right, so that one is A-okay. Now, do they tell me here to drag it down in the next little part? So in that, enter the if function. I did that. University rejects a student early if that student has either an SAT less than 800, which is cell C3, or a GPA below 1.80. So I verified that. Use relative and mixed references. I did that. Remember the $4 and $3, they're mixed references. Okay. So we are good to go. All right. So that is done. Use relative and mixed. Yeah. They're again not telling me to do it. So it looks like I'm going to be doing them all, and then we're going to do the other stuff after. Okay. All right. So that's that. So now they say, now let me make that one in red. Okay. This should be perfect. Let's make the assumption that's in there. Okay. Now pull this up for a minute. Yeah. All right. So now to calculate an applicant's score. All right, let's see. So step 6, use column I to calculate an applicant's admission score. So in cell I11, remember when you see an I, you might think it's a 1. Even though they're making the I straight up and down, the 1 has that little left caret or whatever you call it make it look like a 1. But either way, it's I11. It's not 111. Okay. So here is I, and here is 11. So that's where we're going to do the next one. All right. So in it, Let's move that again. All right. So in cell I11, enter a formula to calculate an applicant's admission score. So we multiply the GPA. They tell us what it is, cell F11. So we're going to multiply this GPA, F11, by the multiplier B7. Now the multiplier is up here, which means it's not in the same row. So this is going to be another mixed reference. So it's going to be B$7 when we do that. Okay. And add that result to the SAT E11. Okay, so it's going to basically be 4 times, multiply the GPA by the multiplier, 4 times this multiplier, and then plus their SAT to get their score. Interesting. Okay, so that's pretty darn easy. All right, so over here, we're going to do the same thing, except you notice they're not saying functions, which means you don't need to use a function on them. So I'm just typing equal, okay? And then I just got to put in what they're asking us to put in. So F11, remember, will be relative because it's going to be everything it's comparing to on this row. We don't need dollar signs because they're not mixed. But when we're referring to a previous row, that's when we need a dollar sign. And it said to multiply by the multiplier. So put the asterisk, which means, and now you can see it better up here in the formula bar. So equal F11 times, and then they said the multiplier. So click B7, okay? And between the B and the 7, you need to put the dollar sign. Because what happens again is that when you drag it down, well, whenever we do that, okay, it would go B8, B9, B10. In other words, it would keep going down too unless we make it stay constant by putting a mixed reference. That's the $7. All right. Okay. So that, and then add the result to the SAT E11. So then you do plus, whoops, at the end of the B$7, and then plus, and then click E11. Okay. And then we don't have open and closing parentheses because we're not using a function, so I'll just enter it. Okay, so it says 3,900. Okay, and again, they're telling us this one's better than some of them because they're giving us something. So the first score is 3925, and you see it's 3925. And you know what? Sorry, I should make this a little bit bigger up there. Okay, so 3925. All right. I just got to remember to put it back to 100, or otherwise that might affect my score too. Okay, so 3925, use relative and mixed. Again, if you look up here, relative is F11, relative is E11, mixed is B7 because it's not the same row as everything else. All right, so that's done. Let's see, so in my mind, that's correct. So I'm now going to say this one. I'm only going to do 1 or 2 more. I'm going to see how many points that this should be. If I get 40 anyway, then that's all I want to get for. So again, they're not telling me to drag it down. All right, in column J, so now we're going up here to J. So there's J, and oops, J11, okay? And this is final decision. So let's see what this one says. You want to display early admission, early rejection, admit, or reject, respectively, to indicate the final. Wow. Okay, so this one's going to have 4 choices of words here. Early admission, early rejection, admit, or reject, based on whatever we do with this formula, okay? So let's see all that in action. So J11, all right, let's read that again. The specific requirements. Enter the IFS function. All right, so they're telling us again to use a specific function. So in the formulas, if is a logical, so go to your logical, and then we're looking for if with a S, this one, if S, okay? So here, they're again letting us, all we got to do is put the logical test, and then what happens if it's true, and then we're going to have to do more logical tests. So we'll, I forget how, but we'll extend that down, okay? All right, so let's see. Enter the IFS function. If admit early is yes, so admit early, so let's look where that is. Okay. Admit early is, so G11, okay, so G11 equals, so type, just click on this one. Excuse me, G11, and then hit a space if you want to. Let's see, equal. This is just going to be equal because it's yes or no. So type yes with double quotes around it and make sure you put a capital Y. Again, I'm not positive if you need the capital, but I always tell you do it the way they do it. So if it's yes, okay, then they're saying early admission. So do double quotes because this is a string as well. Early admission, okay? All right. Now, early admission if it's true. Then another logical test. So that's if yes, oh wait, that's early admission, yeah. Make sure you spell it correctly. All right. And capital E, capital A. All right. Then if reject early is yes. So for logical 2, it's this one. So click on this one. H, and these do not need a mixed reference because they're on the same row. Okay. Remember, if you stay on the same row, you don't need any mixed reference. Okay. H11 equal, in this case, no. Let's see if that's what they want. No, they want yes, obviously. Okay, so if reject early is yes, so this one, H11 is what I just typed out, okay, is yes. That means they want to reject them early. Then the value, if it is yes, okay, will be early rejection. Again, with double quotes, so early and a capital E, capital R, and then double quotes, okay? And then another logical test. All right, so that's early rejection. Actually, this is an easy one too. If the score is greater than the threshold score in B6. So for this one, all right, now see here, B6, this is way up here. So this would be a reference again, a mixed reference, okay? But let's see what they're saying. They're saying if the score, okay, this is this score. So the score in I11, okay, that was the score we just calculated a minute or two ago, a few minutes ago. So here we're going to say, click on this one, I11, and if it's what? If the score is greater, admit, not greater than, equal, just greater. So I11 greater, and then click up here on threshold score, this one, okay? But here on that B6, put the dollar sign between the B and the 6, $6, okay? So if you look up here in the formula bar, you see it may be a bit better, although here it may actually be better, but either way, equal IFS, open. G11 equals yes, double quotes on both sides, comma, double quotes, early admission. So this is the first logical test. Is G11 equal to yes? If it is, this is where we go for the, let's see if it'll click up here and tell me. Yeah, see, value if true. So if it's true, it's going to type out early admission. Then this is the next logical test 2, H11. So this is H11, and its reject early is no for the first person. But they're saying if H11 equals yes, then we're rejecting them early. So then we're going to say early rejection. Okay. Then if you click out to the next comma, now it's logical test 3, and in this one it's I11. So I11 greater, or is what it really means, but I11 greater than B mixed reference 6. So is 3925 better than B6, which is 2900? And yes, it is. So in that case, now I have to put, let's see, oh, admit, greater than the threshold. So here it's going to be admit. So up here, I can't, let's see if I can scroll. Okay, yeah, scroll it down. Okay, so value of true for 3. Let's go up a little bit more just to make sure I didn't. Let's see. So there's, yeah, I got to come down a little bit, but not too much. Oh, well, oops, that's test 11. I'm just going to do it up here. So, you know, you can play with that. But anyway, so you see where I am? I'm up here in the cursor. So that's a logical test. I11, okay, I11 greater than 2900. The answer is it is, so comma, and then it's going to say value of true, and down here it says display admit. So double quote, admit, double quote, okay, and then another comma, because there's another one. If the score is less than, oh, less or equal, the other was greater. So less than or equal B6, it's a reject. So this one is exactly the same. Why can't I get this thing to come down where I want it? It's just to show part. You know what? Let's see if I do it this way. Okay, there we go. Yeah. So, okay, that's admit. But the same one now for the next logical test will say I11 less than equal B6. Okay. So here, click on I11 again. This time, less than equal. Okay, I11 less than equal the 2900. Okay, so 2900, and again, we need a mixed reference, so B $6. Okay, and then if that's true, we're calling it reject. Okay, so reject, so double quotes, R-E-J-E-C-T, double quotes. So let's now look up here and see what we've got. So we got 4 logical tests up here in this top thing. Okay, so it's equal IFS. You see that on the top left over here in the function arguments. G11 equals yes, and then there's a comma. The comma ends up being to go to the next cell here where it says early admission, and value of true is early admission. So that's correct. Then we have a comma. That brings us to the next logical test, H11 equals yes. So you can look up here and over here to get it all. So H11 equals yes, yes. Then a comma. If that is yes, then it's early rejection. So you look down and you see early rejection. Then another comma, and then I11 greater than B $6. I11 greater than B $6. Okay, hit this down this way. And if so, comma, admit with double quotes around it. So that's true. So admit, and then this down here this way. And then the next one, logical test 4, I11 less than equal B $6, comma, and then if it's true, reject. Excellent. So I'm going to say okay. All right. So, and here it says early admission. Excellent. Excellent. All right. You know what? I haven't saved this in a while. That's unusual for me. Okay, man, I forgot that. Okay, so let's save it all. All right. So, now I want to see this higher because I got to see where we were at. Okay, so here in my mind, oh wait, did they tell me which one is going to be? Okay, this one, well, we know it's early admission because we know the value, right? So just look at this thing. So their SAT is 1525, which is way higher than 1400. So yes, they qualify, okay? And their SAT, their GPA is 4, which is also way higher than the early admit, 3.8, well, quite a bit higher anyway. So it's yes, so they qualify for early admission, okay? Now that's good. All right, so I'm going to make them all in red. So 7, and make that red, okay? Let's hit the, I'm not going to save it yet. Okay, so now number 8. You are ready to copy the formulas down their respective columns. Gee whiz. Well, I think I'll give myself credit for that then. Okay, so that, I think we're going to get that right. Red. All right, so copy the formulas down the admit early, reject early, admit early, reject early, score, and final decision. Admit early, well, there's 4 columns starting with admit early. So let's make this bigger again. Admit early here. So you click this, the cell, right? Where it's a yes. And then up here in the formula bar, you see the formula. Just double click on the little green corner. Remember the green corner is just above this white hollow plus sign right now. When you're on top of it, it turns to a thin black plus sign. Either click it and drag or double click. Boom, boom. So then it has to always be yes or no, right? It can't be anything else. If you have something else, then you got an error. So that's done. Then this one, same thing, double click, boom, boom. All no, here's a yes. See, this is reject. All right, so if they're rejected early, then they obviously can't be admitted early. So because their score, yeah, look at their scores, it's low. So that would be yes. Now, some of these you might say, well, no and no. Well, let's just look at a no and no. So let's look at this one. So it's no for admit early. Well, let's see what admit early is. It's 1403.80. That's a little bit less than 1400, and it's way less than 3.80. So for sure they're not early. And then on reject early, it's less than 800. Well, sure not less than 800. It's way more than that. And it's less than 1.8 or less than equal 1.8, and it's way more than that. So the no is working too. So good. All right, so then what else did that darn thing say? I think it said the last 2 as well. So admit early, reject early, score, and final decision. Score is this one. Again, remember, you have a formula, right? So all you're doing is double clicking on this thing. This time I'll just do the click and drag down, right? So boom, 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 boom. It doesn't matter which way you do it. But stop when you get to the last one that is done in the other places, okay? And then this one, click on this one, same thing, but I'll just double click again. Boom, boom. Okay. So we got admit, reject, that's 2 of the choices. Early admission and early rejection. So we got 4 choices and they're all represented sometimes. All right, so I'm gonna hit the save. Now, let's see how many points that hopefully is. So 6 for number 8, 6 and 8 is 14, 14 and 5 is 19, 19 and 8 is 27, 27 and 8 is 35, 35 and 2 is 37, 37 and 5 is 42. 42 is enough. I say I always do about try to do 40% or so. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to save the file again, try to get this back to 100. I don't want them to mess me up. It's always hard for me to make these go exactly to the number. I think there's a way to do it, but I don't pay attention to that. Ah, there we go. All right, so hit that and hit my save again. Okay, now I'm going to close it down. Remember, always close it down. So now choose the file. Okay, so here's the file. Oh, it's my example. Sorry, I always have an example for myself. Download. Not the zip file, this one. And it should say, so 36401. Right now it's 36402, so that's the file. So click on it, open it. Selected file, upload it. Okay. Upload and then submit for grading. Your file has been submitted for grading. Okay. Excel chapter 5. Excel chapter 5. Okay, it's submitted. It's not graded yet. If I click this, if it does it. Last time I did a refresh here and it didn't do it. So that then knocked me out of it and I had to go back in. Let me click to submit it to see what that one does. Nope, it's already submitted, so I don't want that. Test presentation, go back to course materials. Let me just get out of course materials again. Go here, and then go here. Now go here again. Oh wait, I have to go back to the instructor, right? Although I should be able to see it from my student view. I always forget. Let's see, course materials, let's just try it anyway. Course materials again, and see if it now shows up. So Excel 3. Excel 3. Okay, 42%. So that's the number of points it said. So that one, they did good. They gave me my just points, all right? Because it was 42 and it's 42. If you click it, wait, where do you go here? View submissions. Okay, so here 42%, but how, if I click here, I hopefully see it. Yeah, okay. All right, so remember on number 1, you don't get anything. So number 2 was 5 out of 5, so that's okay. Number 3 is 2 out of 2. Number 4 is 8 out of 8. Number 5 is 8 out of 8. Number 6 is 5 out of 5. Number 7 is 8 out of 8. Number 8 is 6 out of 6. And I didn't do the others. So that's the way it should be. And this one, see, I was a little bit more focused and not doing crazy things. Like I really want to double click on all those first cells, you know, to bring the fill handle down. And it probably would have been fine. But I just said that I'm always trying to demonstrate other things, other ways to do something or whatever else, and it messes me up a little bit. And then sometimes it interferes with the score, I think, because it like inserted some blank rows in my chapter 5 example. I still got a 34.7 out of 40 on that one, but the blank rows occurred because I was clicking those outline number 1, number 2, and number 3, and I think something, you know, added some rows. But anyway, so that's done. So good luck on this one and have a great day. I shall see you guys in class on Wednesday. So let's stop the recording.